And this is the latest iteration of our How to Clinic series. And what we'll be doing today is doing an overview of the value that you could and should be seeing with Integration Hub. And then Errol will be walking through not only the value that you can be seeing, but how to take the steps to start getting there. And what we hope you get out of this is, not just a picture of what you'll be able to do and where you'll be able to be a few months from now, but how to get there and what that path forward looks like. I will have a poll at the end, so if you're able to hang on for an extra 30 seconds at the end, it'll be very, very quick, but definitely appreciate everybody's participation in that. And we will also send out today's recording to all attendees. With that, I will not eat up any more of the time for preliminaries here, and I will throw it over to Errol's side of the fence and let you take it from here. Thanks, Errol.
Excellent. Thanks, Zach. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. To Zach's point, I'm going to be going through just kind of a brief overview up front with some PowerPoint slides, just talking a little bit about Integration Hub, kind of what it is, the value that our customer base is seeing, kind of what the importance of Integration Hub as kind of that connective tissue between external systems and the ServiceNow platform. And then also talking about kind of where we're going. Really, we wanted to, with this particular session, really start talking about kind of how Integration Hub has evolved and some of the solutions that kind of wrap around it to make it easier to leverage those Integration Hub spokes to quickly get time to value with those, with any type of potential kind of use case scenario. And we'll talk through some of those as we move through the discussion. And I'm going to hop back and forth a little bit between slide deck and then also spend quite a bit of time in our demo environment, just kind of walking through some of the solution and some of the feature functionality within the Integration Hub technology. So hang on one second. I'm going to share out my screen. Zach, quick technical check. Can you see the Integration Hub slide? I think we are good.
Yep, sorry about that. I can see.
Thanks, Zach. Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the obligatory NDA slide that we're going to be covering some privilege and confidential information. And then obviously the also obligatory safe harbor notice for any forward-looking statements that we make throughout the presentation. What I want to do that just kind of cover the agenda. Like I said, first, we're going to go through an Integration Hub overview and then talk a little bit about Flow Designer and the actual Integration Hub spokes. I'm also going to touch on flow templates for document management and flow templates in general. All right, this is actually something that is underpinned by the Integration Hub spokes and allows us to quickly build applications or create workflows. So we'll talk about that as we move through the discussion. And then wrapping it up on the technology side is the access management automation. And I'm going to show you kind of where we're heading within the Integration Hub solution, where we want to build these end-to-end solutions out of the box that allow you to get that quick time to value. And access management automation is one of the out-of-the-box solutions that we're selling. And we'll touch on that, and then finally wrap it up with some resources. And I'll send out to the attendees later some of those resources you can dig into to kind of further look at the different aspects of Integration Hub. So let's get started with the overview. Really, the goal of this is fast time to value. We're going to talk about that quite a bit as we move through the discussion. And really, if we're looking at this screen from left to right, I'm going to follow this type of approach as we talk through this. So first is the integration spokes, right? Those are those out of the box integrations that are pre-built, really to allow customers, instead of having to build any type of customized integration, they can take time, provide issues, it's not supportable, maintainable. Those integration spokes are built to provide that quick time to value to quickly integrate with those third-party external systems. And then moving to the right, those low-code templates. So this, like I'd mentioned, this is part of our App Engine Studio. You can also see them within Flow Designer. We'll take a look at both of those options, but also within App Engine Studio, as you build out applications, if you're leveraging that solution, it allows you to quickly build specific use cases and get to that, like I said, that quick time to value. And then finally, on the right, the solutions, the end-to-end solution to get you to that business outcome, whether that's something like password reset, software request, or access management, which is something we'll talk about. And really the high cost of no automation. We talk about the value of Integration Hub, and a lot of times it's as simple as, listen, we just don't have the development time or the cycles to build out some robust integrations, and we're trying to solve these these day-to-day issues, kind of low-hanging fruit type of issue within the organization. A lot of times there's manual intervention between the ServiceNow platform and these third-party systems, and really you're just burning up all these cycles and man hours when they could be focused on more of that kind of that higher value work. So with Integration Hub and the associated spokes, it allows us to create those quick time to value integrations between the ServiceNow platform and those third-party external systems, right? And it's about reducing, kind of mean time to repair in certain situations, and actually just any type of resolution for incidents and requests, right? Automating up to at least 80% of those within an organization, removing a lot of that manual intervention. And here's an example. We have several kind of case studies that we've done with the Integration Hub solution. We like to use the St. Jude. I like to talk about St. Jude Children's Research Hospital because it was one of the earlier as far as the beginning of the COVID pandemic. This was one of those kind of quick time to value type of integrations, leveraging the DocuSign Integration Hub spoke, because they were going through the manual processes of trying to get signatures, right? Whether this is for, contact admin processes or any other type of required signatures within the organization. And given that with the COVID pandemic kind of exploding everyone out into the wild and having these very disparate silos of employees, being able to automate that process was really key to really drive efficiencies into the organization, and really, improving that process speed, productivity, visibility, and then also the employee experience, right? Making it more smooth. This is also extends into things like onboarding for new hires or offboarding, whatever the case may be. So this is a real world scenario, and it went from 3 weeks from the requirements that were given to us to actually go live. So really, really good quick time to value story for a very visible hospital system. Now, this is one of our newer slides. I just want to kind of talk about this really quickly, because I talk about the evolution of Integration Hub and kind of where we've been and where we're going. So this pyramid here, if you look at this, I'm going to focus on the top 3 sections of that pyramid. And really, you're talking about the spokes, which are going to be just the inherent Integration Hub spokes that have been around for quite some time, that allows us to take that low-code approach to actually integrating with a third-party system. And then the second one up there are the flow templates, right? Those starter flows, the guided setup, really allows us to use the kind of that low-code approach with an App Engine Studio or Flow Designer to really create those integrations and get to that ultimate business outcome. And then, like I mentioned, we're going to kind of wrap up everything at the end with those out-of-the-box solutions for some of those top-end use cases, right? Access management is one of the use cases that comes back to us quite often. So we're going to focus on that. So let's talk a little bit about Flow Designer and spokes. And I'm going to switch gears here in a second and hop over into the demo instance and talk through this. So, what is a spoke? All right. It's a scoped application that contains pre-built integration that are used via Integration Hub. And there are, like I said, there's over 150. That number is going to continue to grow as we progress through the different iterations of ServiceNow platform. And really the driver there is customer use cases and customer requirements. Right, we work on behalf of the customers with our developers to build out these integrations to make it as easy as possible to build these out of, create these integrations out of the box, and then also, have a reusable integration for various endpoint or third-party systems that extend outside of the ServiceNow platform. How to request the spoke, right? It's as easy as going to the ServiceNow store, right? Install the prerequisites, install the plugin, and then you can just verify that spoke installation. And that is going to surface within Flow Designer, which we'll talk about in a second. I'm actually going to hop into the demo instance. We'll walk through it. And then I just wanted to wrap up this part of the slide deck with kind of a refresher on the IntegrationHub packages. This is the latest version of these. We've built different bands of these IntegrationHub packages for our customer base, just to allow customers to determine, right, what are our use cases, right? Do we have specific integrations that we're going to require or want to, down the road for specific, business outcomes? So we provide these different bands, and I'm not going to pull up a comprehensive list of all the spokes just because it would be such an eye chart, but you can actually, we'll share that out as part of the IntegrationHub overview follow-up, and then I'll give you a view of all the various IntegrationHub spokes that are available. Like I said, the goal of this is to cover as many of those use cases as possible for the customer base. So give me a second. I'm going to switch gears real quick. And we should be looking at the ServiceNow demo instance. And whenever we go through the process, like I mentioned, of you purchase that subscription for the spokes or the specific IntegrationHub package, those spokes will be available. You can install them through the plugin list, and then those are going to be made available directly through Flow Designer. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into Flow Designer, which is just part and parcel to our standard ServiceNow platform. What you're going to see is really a list of flows that have been kind of pre-built. And I'm going to talk a little bit about these as we move through the discussion. But you're going to see the ability to create these flows, which we're going to dig into in a second. Subflows, right, which would be a component underneath, or kind of a child component within that workflow. Specific actions, right, taking a specific action within the context of that flow. Executions, right, if any have run within this Flow Designer from if you're running a specific workflow or testing it out. When you first get started, I want to talk about this really quickly. This is a newer solution or functionality within the Flow Designer solution. And what this is it's a connection management solution. So as part of this, the Flow Designer IntegrationHub approach, connections and aliases are kind of a critical piece of this. So we want to allow you to create those connections and associated aliases as easily as possible to be able to facilitate that integration using the IntegrationHub spokes to that third-party or external system. Looks like the demo instance is running really slowly, so we'll hop back into this in just a couple of minutes. But I want to talk a little bit about the actual flows themselves. So when you first are going to leverage IntegrationHub, within the associated spokes, hang on one second here. Looks like the demo instance froze up. Hang on one sec. All right, I think we're back in business. Sorry about that. Look like the demo instance was dragging here. So whenever you first install the ServiceNow IntegrationHub spokes, you're building out a specific workflow. And the goal of this is actually to quickly get that integration set up for whatever use case you've provided or what's specific to your organization. So we're going to talk about templates. We're also going to talk a little bit about, like I said, those end-to-end solutions. But I want to talk about some of the ways to get that quick time to value with just the inherent spokes themselves in Flow Designer, which is really going to be kind of the foundation for building out these integrations and the workflows. So whenever you upload a spoke, in a lot of cases, there are going to be out of the box templates or sample flows, if you will, within the actual spokes themselves. So if you look at the Microsoft AD spoke, Active Directory spoke, there are some sample flows that are provided out of the box. And one of those would be user, like mentioned, user onboarding, user offboarding. So what you can do, like I said, this is an example. You can certainly build a workflow using Flow Designer from scratch. Customers will do that all the time, but the purpose of the discussion here is really not to get into the weeds with regards to having to build out a lot of customizations, but talk about getting that quick time to value. And so if you look at this specific spoke, the Microsoft Active Directory spoke, within the context of Flow Designer, we've built out this sample flow, which is really going to update a user, right? We're going to look and see if a user has been changed from inactive to active within the ServiceNow platform, and then be able to update that associated user within Active Directory. So we built out this flow. I just kind of want to talk through this kind of logically as we look at this. There's going to be a trigger whenever you build this out within Flow Designer. We're going to create that specific trigger, whether that's like a catalog, a service catalog object, which we'll talk about as we move through the discussion, or something like a user is updated, a user record is updated within the ServiceNow platform. And then it follows these various actions, right? And these actions are associated with that specific IntegrationHub spoke, in this case, the Microsoft Active Directory spoke. Now, this could be Okta, it could be DocuSign, et cetera. Whenever you look at that spoke, though, within the context or the action from that spoke within Flow Designer, you see you have the various data objects that are specific within those tables, right? And we create these data pills as we build out those flows that allow you to drag and drop those into these various tables as you build this out or as is required. I don't want to get into a lot of customizations because what I'm trying to do is take a look at this from an efficiency standpoint and look at how quickly we can get those kind of low-hanging use case scenarios knocked out. And so we are out of the box just with those standard IntegrationHub spokes, have some of these sample flows that you can use and update as you see fit. So these are completely customizable. In a lot of cases, what we'll do is once you take a look at this specific sample flow, if you wanted to add additional actions, you can do that as well. And I want to kind of show you this as a visualization. Whenever you are going to add an action, you're going to see all the installed spokes that are available to you. So as you subscribe to those different ServiceNow IntegrationHub packages, those associated spokes that are installed are going to be available. And you can leverage those and look at any of these actions that are associated with that specific IntegrationHub spoke. So if we looked at the one we're looking at here, Microsoft AD, you see that you have a number of these actions, create computer, delete computer, that are available directly in Flow Designer and that extend off of that IntegrationHub spoke. So this is, as a best practice, I talk to customers, and one of my hopes from this session is as you move away from this, look at any potential use cases that you may see internally, whether that's password reset, whether that's something like user onboarding or offboarding, document management, et cetera. Look at those specific use cases, install that specific spoke, and then you can leverage some of those out of the box kind of sample templates or sample workflows to really start getting that quick time to value. And as a component of that, like I mentioned, let me see if this will pull up now that here we go. Under the connections, I wanted to touch on this as a kind of an integral part of actually building out these workflows is going through building out these connections and the associated aliases. So if we look at this, we're able to manage all the various connections and look at those aliases that we create to really simplify the integration process moving forward. The goal of this is to create that one connection alias within Flow Designer. Then as you start utilizing those Microsoft or DocuSign or Okta spokes for various use cases, that connection is already set up. So you can leverage this over and over again. Like I said, the reusability of both the spokes and those integrations, and then also things like the actual credentials and the connections is really critical to making this as streamlined as easy as possible to create those integrations. And just to show you another example here, if we went into, let's take a look at all of the actual workflows that we have that are in this particular instance. If we go into the application, let's just type in Okta as an example. You're going to see some of these that have actually been provided as sample workflows out of the box. So just wanted to highlight that. We're going to get into some more detail and kind of show you the expansiveness of some of those Okta integrations as we move through talking about the access management automation solution. But I wanted to highlight this as part of that just kind of fundamental approach. So regardless if you have App Engine Studio, regardless if you're leveraging it, regardless if you're using the access management automation solution, you can quickly get that time to value by leveraging some of those sample workflows that are just inherent with those out-of-the-box spokes. So I'm going to switch back here real quick. So wanted to start this off with really talking about, when you're considering those use cases, internally, you have internal meetings discussing, all right, how do we get some value out of Integration Hub, right? We have these third-party systems that we have to go to, to gather information, right? We have brittle integrations between them. Let's consider those. So like I said, Flow Designer is going to be part and parcel to that kind of initial build out, along with the Integration Hub spokes. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, really one of the things we're also trying to do is continue to drive forward with that quick time to value. And as part of that, really kind of building some of these out-of-the-box solutions to make it as easy as humanly possible for you to create those or get to those business outcomes. And as part of that, we've built out flow templates. And I'm going to highlight flow templates for document management, but there's also, flow templates kind of for a myriad of solutions and use cases within the organization. And we'll take a look at those from a Flow Designer perspective, and then also in App Engine Studio as well, right? That low-code development environment for being able to build out these applications. And I'll take a look at what those flow templates look like within the context of the actual App Engine Studio. If you look at this really is, if we're looking at this within the context of Flow Designer, App Engine Studio, that ad automation is a component of it. And you look over here on the left-hand side of this slide, there are a number of, depending upon what you've subscribed to, a number of kind of pre-built templates that allow you to quickly build out these integrations and workflows without having to go in directly into something like Flow Designer and build something from the ground up, right? As you have these use cases, as you want to build out these end-to-end solutions, we're kind of giving you that template and making considerations, right? For kind of these pre-built templates for what are your considerations for, how is the user experience going to look, right? Do you have a workplace? Is this from a service catalog? What type of data, right, do we need to collect? And we'll talk about that. It's really about driving those efficiencies into this process. So I'm going to flip over here real quick. And let's take a look at this within So everyone, you should now see the App Engine Studio. And some customers haven't adopted the App Engine Studio yet. I'm going to take a look at the App Engine Studio just to kind of do a little knowledge transfer and just give everyone kind of an idea of how, Integration Hub underpins the build out of some of these applications and leveraging these templates to get that quick time to value. We'll also just hop back over to Flow Designer in a few minutes and take a look at some of those templates, as they also can be leveraged directly in Flow Designer, right? I want to give the ability to leverage these pre-built templates is available, inherently within the platform within Flow Designer, but we want to take a look at that experience with App Engine Studio because the goal of our product teams is to make this as easy as possible to create these end-to-end solutions. In this case, we want to talk a little bit about document management, and it usually takes a few minutes when we're creating an app from scratch to actually build that out. So what I want to do is let's take a look at kind of a sample document management application that I had set up. Like I mentioned, when I was talking about, this solution, giving you considerations for, building out that application or that end-to-end solution, this really walks you through, the data, right? How you're storing that information within the application. And there's going to be some default data points that are included also with an experience, logic, and automation, which we'll talk about in a second. These are inclusive within this template, right? This is going to be an out-of-the-box type of solution to get to that ultimate business outcome, from a standpoint of document management, or if you're looking at something like access management or, any other type of solution within the ServiceNow platform that you're trying to, get to that ultimate business outcome, we have this pre-built template to kind of walk you through, right, what data is going to be required, right? For that, you can always add additional functionality within these specific templates, but we're going to give you that baseline out of the box to create those applications and those workflows. Like I mentioned, experience as an example, we've built this in. So if we look at something like the document management portal, you can actually preview, right? We're building this out from a DocuSign perspective to be able to send out those documents and allow them to digitally get signed and then go through the approval process and be able to track it. And you also have the ability to set up an actual document repository here. And this allows customers to submit documents through this actual workspace or portal. So a lot of functionality that's built into this. And to the point of our integration hub discussion, we get down to logic and automation. You've got the ability to add these automated workflows to improve the productivity, right? And we have some of these document flows that are already built in. Let's go ahead and hit add. And I'm going to walk you through kind of what this looks like when you start talking about, Integration Hub as it underpins this particular solution. So if you look at this, we have a lot of these automation templates that are available within the App Engine Studio. What we can do is go down here to send a template document for signature from the service catalog. We can click on this, and this will basically give you kind of a very kind of short and concise, description to really make this kind of wizard driven to move you through the build out of this particular workflow and really try to simplify it. So we'll go ahead and get started. And like I mentioned, whenever you have subscribed to those IntegrationHub packages, all the associated spokes that are available to you will be available directly in Flow Designer, but then also are going to be surfaced as part of these automation templates. So in this case, we have our Adobe Sign spoke and we have our DocuSign spoke. For the purpose of this discussion, let's go ahead and click on DocuSign. Once again, during the implementation of this, we've created that connection, right, that can be managed through the connection and credentials page within the Flow Designer solution. Go into catalog item. This is going to be kicked off by a catalog request. We want to send a document for digital signature. Go ahead and create that or fill in the DocuSign template document. Let's go ahead and say, just as an example, $45. Go ahead and continue. We're going to go ahead and set up this flow. So like I said, this is a very wizard driven approach. We said a lot of this is out of the box within Flow Designer, but in a lot of cases, it's a little bit more clunky. This is really simple. Like I said, wizard driven to kind of get you from A to Z as quickly as possible. So we're just going to call this sample. Go ahead and hit continue. And now we're dynamically building that workflow based off of what we want to do. In this case, it was sending out that document via DocuSign for digital signature. So we're going to let this run its course. It may take just a couple of seconds. And as I've talked to several customers as they've, have had Integration Hub kind of included within their subscription for ServiceNow, trying to figure out, getting as much value out of it as possible. A lot of the customers are starting to, adopt that App Engine Studio kind of approach to building out their internal applications, are really starting to leverage those Integration Hub spokes via these templates, because it really makes it easy to build out these flows. And as you can see, we can go ahead and hit done, or in this case, let's take a look at the flow that was pre-built for us based off of those templates. And we'll see some of what we looked at previously via that actual automation template. It's already built out the workflow within Flow Designer. So now we're looking at this, we're looking at the Flow Designer view within the context of App Engine Studio. It's built out all those appropriate actions, right, via the DocuSign IntegrationHub spoke. And it allows you to modify that. Like I mentioned, if you have any requirements around, what is that trigger? In this case, it's going to be someone, requesting that through the catalog. It gives you a lot of flexibility with actually first very quickly building out that end-to-end solution and then modifying it or customizing it as is required. Let's go ahead and go back in here. Now we can see we've added that sample workflow within the logic and automation. We are also, as part of that template and that app engine approach, we also have these predefined roles that would be the standard minimum required roles for these end-to-end solutions, right? You have your approver, your submitter, and then your admin. And then this gives you the ability to, once this has been built out and configured, if you've added in your workflows via the templates, you can then actually submit that for approval within your organization and then publish that particular end-to-end application. So like I said, this is the evolution of Integration Hub. Really is kind of Integration Hub is always going to be that foundation. Those specific spokes are always going to be there. This is going to really try to add a layer of simplicity with regards to leveraging those spokes without having to go in and do a lot of brute force customizations. So via this templatization of the specific use cases and those Integration Hub spokes, it really allows customers to get that quick time to value. And like I mentioned, let me switch over here real quick. If we go back over into Flow Designer, like I mentioned, for customers that may not have adopted App Engine Studio, but want to get that quick time to value, you have the ability to leverage these template flows within the actual Flow Designer solution as well. So if we go into, which we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes, is access management. You're going to have a number of these that are automatically available as you've onboarded that access management automation solution. So these can also be modified and configured directly in the Flow Designer tool as well. So, like I mentioned, at its core, and regardless if you've, are leveraging access management automation, or any of those end-to-end solutions, or if you're not leveraging App Engine Studio, Flow Designer and the associated spokes allow you to get that quick time to value by virtue of some of those sample flows that we talked about earlier. So let's do this. I'm going to hop over and let's take a look at access management automation real quick. So that third tier within kind of the evolution of Integration Hub approach are the end-to-end solutions. And for the purposes of our discussion today, I wanted to highlight the access management automation. And really, what this is it's a store application. It's available through the ServiceNow software store, and we'll take a look at what that looks like within the actual store itself. But the goal of this is to really, to quickly automate those common requests, right? And this is for things like, getting a list or group or system access from Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and Okta. And like I said, this is that end-to-end solution, within anything within technology, in particular the ServiceNow platform as an open platform and a very customizable platform. We really want to try to eliminate, or at least try to minimize any type of error-prone manual provisioning. like I said, technically anything is possible, but with everyone that has everything on their plate and they have these kind of low hanging fruit type of use cases, we want to provide out of the box, or as close to out of the box as possible, these end-to-end solutions. So in this case, we're going to talk about access management automation. You can take a look over here on the left-hand side, and those three visuals, the three visuals here in these three boxes. You've got your catalog items that actually allow you to, create that request from the catalog. In this case, add Azure Active Directory user to groups. And then we've pre-built, right, automatically the workflows associated with creating that end-to-end solution, right? It's basically a soup to nut solution out of the box. And I'm going to walk through that here as we move through the discussion. So I'm going to switch gears one last time over to the demo environment. Let's talk a little bit about the end-to-end solution as it pertains to access management automation. So within the ServiceNow store, and more and more applications and updates are going to be made available through the ServiceNow store. In this case, access management automation, go in, you can search for it, allows you to request the access management automation. Like I mentioned down here, you can see that this is, it's automate those service catalog requests for external application access in minutes. That's the goal, right? That's just kind of a succinct statement of what we're trying to do with the access management solution. So once you've created or you've requested the access management automation, you go into your plugins, you're going to see that it's available. I've already installed it in this demo instance, but you can go ahead and install that access management automation. And what this does is it's going to create a myriad of catalog items and the associated workflows required to actually fulfill those particular catalog requests. And as part of that, there's very minimal configuration. Whenever this is, you can defer to the documentation for this, but essentially you're setting up a few, decision tables and, publishing or activating some of the catalog items, but very, very simplistic. And so for a lot of our customer base, something like access management, which is critical and burns up a lot of cycles for technicians, and within the organization, administrators want to simplify that. So once that minimal configuration is completed, what you're going to see is within your ServiceNow catalog, we can go in and we're looking at the actual access management catalog. What's automatically built within that are the Microsoft Active Directory catalog request, Microsoft Azure AD. This is all out of the box, and then certainly Okta. So once that's been created, this is published, end users have the ability to go in and make those requests. So in this case, we want to create a user in Okta. They go in, hit create user in Okta. We've already pre-built everything within this, right, for making that specific request. So first, last name, login email, and that primary email ID, right? Once you've created that connection, right, via the connection and credentials functionality within Flow Designer, that's all it's going to leverage those credential and connection aliases for that connectivity. So very, very simple, and everything is pre-built. Now you can certainly modify all this like we talked about, but the goal of this is to get you that quick time to value with something like this. And we have certainly, there's also password reset or another end-to-end solution, Citrix virtual sessions, right? Those reset sessions, all that's out of the box and ready to go in a matter of minutes, essentially, once all the appropriate credentials are created. And so when you look at this from an access management perspective, we'll go into, like I said, Okta, you have all these pre-built. All we can do is go into Flow Designer, and I've already pulled up the access management automation. And you can see that those workflows are already automatically built out. This isn't anything that I went in and configured or customized. These are out of the box. You have the ability to modify as needed, but this is all built in and ready to go directly out of the box. And just a sample here as well. with the Microsoft AD and the Microsoft Azure AD and those particular catalog items. These are the out of the box. Different catalog items can certainly be added in as well. Just wanted to mention that. Like I said, what we've done is based off of market feedback and customer feedback, as we've created a lot of these catalog items that are typically the low-hanging fruit, right? This is going to, we want to make sure that we're covering as much of the customer requirements as possible out of the box and get from point A to point Z as quickly as humanly possible. So these are all available directly out of the box. And like I said, additional items can be added. And what I'm going to do is we'll share out some of those additional kind of end-to-end solution options that are available now as part of the ServiceNow packages. Now, let me switch over here real quick. I wanted to walk through one more item within kind of that, what that visualization looks like within the those end-to-end solutions. So as an example, we talked about the kind of the minimal configuration required for that that access management solution, creating a user in Okta. This is also would be an example. I just want to kind of show you a little bit of what this looks like. So you can certainly submit this directly through the catalog. This is all going to be made available. Then we can also take a look at this within Flow Designer. We looked at this a minute ago, but I'm going to go ahead and run through a kind of a test execution and just give you a little bit of a visual of what that looks like. Go ahead and run a test. I'll grab all these as an example. So when we move into kind of the resources part of the discussion here, when I wrap up here in a few minutes, I do encourage everyone, from a sub-prod perspective, you have carte blanche, to leverage Flow Designer and the associated Integration Hub spokes. My recommendation is to consider internally, what are those kind of low-hanging fruit test cases, right? We've run kind of what we call clustering exercises with our customer base. Look at, right, what constitutes a bulk of those requests and tickets. Like I said, things like resetting Citrix virtual sessions, certainly access management, things like the document management, DocuSign signatures, Adobe Sign signatures. A lot of those are, software requests, right, are obviously huge. Consider those and then take a look at Flow Designer within a sub-prod instance and build out those integrations. And then you can certainly test those internally to see what type of issues may have occurred. So you can kind of build this out in your sandbox in the sub-prod environment. Like I said, in this case, we're going to kick out an error. Then we have the ability to address that, build it out in practice, and really quickly by leveraging some of those sample templates and sample workflows to quickly build out these integrations and get that quick time to value. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that with some of the functionality inherent with leveraging IntegrationHub spokes within the context of Flow Designer. I absolutely encourage customers to consider those various use cases and start leveraging them and looking at how to best integrate and then leverage those workflow or that workflow functionality to get to those business outcomes. So that being said, let's take a look here at this last part of the discussion, which are really resources that are available to you, from ServiceNow. And I'm going to send out a follow-up with some of these resources because I highly recommend, as you start considering, how do we get value out of IntegrationHub, whatever packages we have, Look at these different resources. We'll send this out. There's a multitude of YouTube videos around kind of best practices and some of these scenarios, right? Active Directory, password reset using the virtual agent, automating those software requests. And then also things like, Jira, right? Some of the development type of approaches. How do we automate that? How do we first integrate, and then how do we automate some of those solutions? And then, like I mentioned at the very bottom here, request Integration Hub to get started, right? And in your subprod instances, first, like I said, consider those use cases. Look at what I would maybe pull some of your internal contacts and help desk and determine, right, what are those common issues? What constitutes a bulk of your issues on a day-to-day basis, right, from a request perspective? And then start thinking about how can we leverage this internally with using the Integration Hub spokes from a standpoint of using the sample workflows, from a standpoint of potentially using it from a template perspective, within Flow Designer or within App Engine Studio. And then, finally looking at something like those end-to-end solutions, something like access management automation, right? We can, if we're getting bombarded and buried with a ton of requests from a help desk perspective, this might be the quickest way for us to alleviate that, free up cycles from our help desk and for other developers and administrators for revenue generating projects, and really try to drive more efficiencies in the organization and get as much value out of the ServiceNow platform as possible. Now, to wrap this up a little bit early, I wanted to take a minute to, I know that Zach's going to present a poll, but I wanted to open it up and you can just post it via chat. Are there any follow-up questions? Are there any specific use cases that you either have right now as kind of an immediate type of issue internally, or something that down the line you see that it's something that you want to address, leveraging the ServiceNow platform and potentially leveraging Integration Hub and the associated spokes? Really wanted to open it up to you, give a little bit of time for Q&A, and see if there's any other follow-up actions that I can take away before we roll out the poll.
Awesome. Thanks, Errol.
No problem.
All right, so we'll be on for a few more minutes. If anybody has additional questions, I also encourage everyone to reach out to your account teams, reach out to your partners that you have involved, and establish next steps. This is definitely meant to be the diving board that allows you to reach new heights. So with that, thank you so much for attending today's session. We hope you found it useful. I do have a quick 2-question poll that I'll launch here in a second, and yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Thank you, everyone. And Errol, thank you so much for taking the time today to run us through that.
No problem, Zach. Thanks, everyone.